Howdy doody, my name is Susie, and today I thought I would share with you how I'm making some magnolia flowers, paper flowers. And I'm making these with crepe paper. I'm going to be using white crepe paper and green. I'm going to be using some pastels, and I'm going to be using hot pink, purple, yellow, and brown. We're going to need some 18 gauge wire, and this is for the stem of the flower. We're going to need some cutting. These are just little wire cutters to make it easier. We're going to need some scissors to cut our templates. And I've got some templates here that I'll attach to this video so you have them as well. A pencil in case you need it. We're going to need little needle nose knot wires, and that's just to create a little tip on our stem. We're going to need a glue gun. I'm using this miniature glue gun, and it's low temperature glue. And I'm also going to be using Aleene's tacky glue for some of the petals, which is optional. Oh, we're also going to need a little sponge, and that's to color our pastels. And we're going to use some hairspray to set the pastel color, and that's optional if you want to use that. So the first thing that we're going to do, and we've got our template, is obviously cut out our template pieces. And I'm going to start with, I've made 3 sizes of flowers. So this is the large one. This is the medium one. This is the small one. And then, of course, the bud. And when you put them all together, you can see you can create a very interesting and pretty flower arrangement. And all I've used is 4 flowers and 2 buds. So you can use as many or as little as you want. Now, I will say that when I made this, I actually made the branch because it's the middle of winter, and to cut a branch, in order to glue the flowers, the branch would have to be dry. So you can see these are from other flowers that I made, and this is a real branch. But your branch has to be dry in order for the glue to adhere to it. And since I don't have any dry branches, I just made the branches by using my 18 gauge wire. Oh, we're also going to need a little bit of paper tissue or toilet paper. And in order to make the branches, all I did was I took my 18 gauge wire, I grabbed a long piece of the toilet paper, and I just wound the toilet paper around haphazardly, gluing it in place just to beef up that wire. And then after I did that, I came back with some brown floral tape. And in order to make it more realistic, you want to leave all the little lumps and bumps as you create this branch like this. And then once the branch was completely done, then I was able to maneuver it. So after I covered the full branch and pretend I did the full branch, I did that with a number of wires, and then I was able to cross the wires in order to create various branches. So something like this, if you can see it. So, and this turned out pretty effective, but it would definitely look a lot nicer if you were using a real branch. So I'm just going to show you how to make the flowers. The first thing that we're going to do, of course, is we're going to grab our template and cut out all our templates. And there's a large petal, a medium petal, and a small. And to cut out these patterns, I've added a little legend so that you can see which way the grain of the paper goes, and you can see which ways the petals basically stretch. So with the crepe paper, and you get it like this, this is about 10 inches in length. You can see all the lines are going up and down. And when you stretch, you're stretching it this way. So that's what the pattern indicates, and that's the way you should cut the petals. So I think this gives you a better perspective. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with our 18 gauge wire. And we're basically just going to cut it into 3 pieces, 6 inches long, And we're going to actually start all of our flowers the same way. And then we're just going to take the needle nose pliers. We'll just take our needle nose pliers and make a little loop. So we're working on the center of the flower, if you can see that. And there's a center in each one of the flowers. And we're going to start off with we're just going to start off with a little square of toilet paper. I just fold it in half and just fold it again on a bit of a slant. And I find that the best way to make these centers is using the white glue or Aleene's glue, because it really helps the paper conform. So I've just added the glue, and you just want to roll it onto itself. You can also use a little piece of paper towel. Now don't use too much glue, because the toilet paper will start to disintegrate, because that's what it's meant to do. So now that we've got our little bud, the next thing we're going to want to do is wrap it. And this is where we've got the little template which says green bud. So you're going to take your crepe paper, which stretches this way, the grain is going up and down, and you're just going to fold it in half. Add your template, cut it out, and then you end up with this. And we're going to stretch this to conform to the bud like this, and then we're just going to roll the bud right inside and make a little point. And I'm going to be using the glue, the Aleene's glue again, and just sneak that right in there. And if you just give it a bit of a stretch while you're doing it, you end up with something like this, and you just want to squeeze those points together. Then the next thing we want to make is our fringe, which is going to look like this. So we're going to take our white paper, and we're going to cut a rectangle that's lengthwise this way, because we want it to stretch. The paper stretching this way, and now we're going to want to fold it, but it's actually quite difficult to fold. Actually score it right down the middle, so approximate middle of the paper. You can use a pencil or you can use your scissors, but just something that is going to score that paper. So you want to score it along the center, and that makes it much easier. You've created a crease. It makes it much easier to fold. And we want to be able to cut little notches all the way along it to create a fringe like this. But we want to color the tips. So all I do is, with your pastels, is I'm just going to, and I'm using another piece of paper. This pastel gets everywhere. So I'm just going to outline that with my pastels, and then with my sponge, I'm going to add a little line of purple too, to get that Smudge, and I'm going to do that to both sides. For the color to actually set, you can set it with just using some hairspray. So here are 2 petals that I've colored. This one I've set with hairspray, this one I did not. So I'm just going to take a little piece of toilet paper and I'm just going to show you. That's the one that I sprayed. And that's the one that I did not. And I don't know if you can see, but more color comes off of the one that I didn't spray as opposed to the one that I did spray. Also, the one that I sprayed, I think you can see how it has more rigidity. It holds its shape better. So that's an option that you can use, but I'm not going to bother setting it with hairspray. You could also set it with hairspray after you've actually made the flower. So then we're going to take our scissors and we're only going to cut halfway down. So you can see I've only cut it halfway down. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stretch the bottom, not the top, just the bottom. And you can see how by stretching the bottom, we're actually separating all those little pieces. And now what we're going to do is we're going to glue our fringe exposed, and we're just going to glue our fringe all the way around. And the Aleene's glue is just going to take a little bit longer to dry, but I like the way that it softens the paper and it just conforms much better. Up a little bit. The other thing about the Aleene's glue is you've got a little bit of time to kind of finagle. So I'm just going to leave a little point coming out, and then I want the little fringe around the flower, like so. So that's what we've got, and this is the center. So you can see we've got the center of the flower, like this, and now we're going to start adding our petals. So for our petals, again, we're using the white paper. So the easiest way to cut your petals, all the stencils are done on a fold. You can see when you open them up, it's a petal, but we're cutting everything on a fold. And the easiest way is just to take your crepe paper, just fold over the edge. So then I just place my petal on the fold so I know how wide my fold has to be. And then I can just run a line with my pencil. Then I just run a line with my pencil. It just makes it a lot easier to cut that. Do however you want. But then I take my stencil and just mark the height. So I've got my stencil like this, and then I just I use the first cut as a template, and then I can just cut all my little pieces in advance. Keep all these extra little pieces because you never know when you're going to need them. So then we've cut out all our 6 pieces, and you can try and cut 2 templates at a time. And if you want to stack 2 papers at a time, you can use a clip to add your stencil and then cut it out. So this is actually the medium flower, which is going to be this one. So then you've got your 6 petals. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to color them now. I'm going to be using 4 colors to make these in the center. And this is going to be the outside of the petal. And I just make a line in the center with the brown. I go over it with a line in the center of the purple. And then I come in with some of the pink. And then with the sponge, I spread it around. And you can deepen or lighten the color, but this is kind of what I'm basically going for. Then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to add some of the pink to the inside center and a little purple at the end. So now I've got the inside and now I've got the outside. I'm cupping the top of the petal inward and I'm cupping, just slightly cupping the bottom of the petal outward. So I've got this. And this is what this part, so I've got this petal and I know that this is what I'm going to be gluing to my, and this is what I'm going to be gluing to my stem, like so. So I'm going to do all of my petals. And I'm using these colors because I've got the, I believe it's the saucer Magnolia. And they do look like big pink saucers. But you can do this in any color that you like. Now this would be the time that you would spray. If you wanted to set the color, you could just use your hairspray. And it's a very, very fine mist. Don't go in and use too much hairspray because you'll make the petals really stiff. I've got my petals. This is the outside. I'm going to stretch it this way and stretch it this way so that I can, makes it easier to glue this to your stem. It also helps determine if the petals are facing in or out. Just makes it easier. This is the outer petal. So I've just switched it this way and turned it that way, and you get this effect. The time that we are going to use our glue gun to secure our petals. It's just way faster. So again, my petal is like this, and I want to secure it this way. I'm going to be securing it to the bottom part of here. So when it's glued, I want the petal to fold to come right at the bottom of this fringe. And there's 6 petals. Magnolias have anywhere from 6 to 12 petals. And I'm just going to add a petal directly across just to get some symmetry. So you can see that I'm just overlapping the bottom. And that's it. It already kind of looks like a magnolia. So now we've got this. Now, if you look at the magnolia flowers, they usually grow off. They grow off a little branch. So we need this little piece of branch, and then we're going to need the little green collar. Now we're going to have to beef this up. And you can take paper towel or a little bit of toilet paper again. And we're just going to wind it around. And we don't need much. We're just going to beef that up with a little bit of toilet paper. And then once we've got our toilet paper, then we can come in with our little piece of brown floral tape. So we stretch and turn, stretch and turn, stretch and turn. And we've still got this little piece of wire. Now, this little piece of wire is going to serve to wrap around our branch, or we can cut it off and glue it on. And then we need a little green collar around here and a couple and 3 sepals. So we're going to cut these 3 little sepals. They just look like little leaves. And you can just take tiny pieces of paper, and you just want to cut it into a little point. You don't really need a pattern. Just cut it like that. And you can see when we stretch it, then you get a much wider leaf. And we want to just add that to the bottom. We just attach it like that. Okay, so we've got the 3 little leaves on the bottom. And now we want to clean this up by adding a little tiny collar. 1/4 inch by 1 inch. And this is where I keep all my leftover little extra pieces, because it makes it very handy. So 1/4 inch by about 1 inch. And then we're just going to add that as a little collar to the base. So there we go. We've got our little collar. We've got our little sepals, and we've got our flower. And this is now where you can play. And I just come in and open up the flower, the petals. Come in and stretch out the petals. And you could have a flower like this. It could be totally closed, or you can just open it up. So I just come in and each petal, I just cup it like so. And I'm just cupping the base. You see how the color lightens because it stretches. And there you've got your magnolia. And of course you could play with it. You can, sometimes the magnolia looks like a petal is about to fall off. And just play with it a little bit until it looks pleasing to you. And I'm just stretching the petals. So there you go. You've got your magnolia flower. Now you can see how that color does come through. It's harder to see on the camera. And also that little bit of color that we had on the inside has come through as well. And you can just play with it. This is the fun part of playing around with the flower and making each flower slightly different than the next. So this is the medium flower. The large one is just slightly bigger, but you make it exactly the same way. Now for the small bud, this guy, we're basically doing it exactly the same, except the inside, I didn't add the fringe. So for the smaller bud, I did the exact same thing. I just took the toilet paper and turned it into a little bud. I added the green paper, and I'm going to attach the petals directly onto this because, as you can see, the flower is fairly closed. You can't really see in it, so I don't need to make that fringe for this particular one. So for the small one, again, we need 6 petals, and this is the small petal. We're going to make it exactly the same, but we're going to just color it a little tiny bit different. Now for the small flower, which I have there, the color is, I made it more intense. So I just added more color to it. So I just made the color more intense with those, the purple and the fuchsia. And when we stretch it, the color will lighten. I just add a little bit of pink, purple in the bottom. By the way, I did add a little bit of yellow. You don't have to, but I did add a little bit of yellow to the tip of the buds. So now we've just got our center bud. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to, I'm just going to stretch so that I know this is the outside of the petal and just make it easier. So I stretch it out and then just a little bit on the inside, not too much. It just to give start giving the petal some shape. And now I'm going to start and add my petals. I put my petal just at the base of my bud. Glue the petals so that they're positioned just at the base, and you can see the inside. It's already starting to look like a flower. Again, we're just going to take a little piece of the toilet paper. So we add our little bit of toilet paper. And then we're going to pull and twist, pull, twist, pull, twist. And that's just creating the branch part. And then we're going to just cut out our little leaves for the sepal. Very cute. Now we're just going to add a dab of glue. So we've added our little leaves, and then we have to add the little collar. And then we've got our flower, and I'm going to open it up at the base. And then all of a sudden I've got a little bud that is just starting to emerge. And then the last thing that I'm going to show you are the just the white buds. You see, we've just got some emerging buds. So for the little buds, you're still going to need a piece of wire. And we're going to take 2 pieces of the tissue paper. That's the bigger bud, so I'm just going to use, now that's 1 little piece of paper. I'm going to use 2. So the 2 pieces of the paper, the bathroom tissue, gives you a slightly larger bud. Like so. And then we're going to take, we've got another little, we're going to take our white bud template, which is like this. When you open it, it looks like this. And we're going to stretch it slightly. I'm going to start by putting it in here. It's going to be shorter than my piece of paper, and I'm just going to wrap it right around to create that nice bud. Now for this part, I am going to use the Aleene's glue so that I can conform it better. I'm just adding a little bit of the Aleene's glue, but you can see that you can stretch it right around to wrap. And then this part, now sometimes I've got a little bit too much of a point. I can just cut it off like so. And now I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of yellow to the tip. And then we're going to stretch them open. Stretch them open like this. And we're going to want the leaves to just allow the bud to show. So I'm going to wrap them this way. Got our bud like that. Little piece of toilet paper. Like that, just to beef up the branch. And then you've got the little collar. So when we attach it to our branch, we can attach it like this and use the wire to wrap around it. Or we can cut it and glue it directly onto the branch. The way that you actually attach it to the branch is really going to depend on you. You've got this wire. If we wanted to add a bud to this branch, then I would come in, and we don't actually need that much wire, but the 18 gauge wire is pretty tough. So, okay, so now you can see I've attached this to the branch with the wire. So I don't actually need glue. So I wire it on, and then with some extra tape, I will go around to cover up the wire. I'll do a little piece on that side, and I'll do a little piece on this side. And that's how you secure your flower to whether it's your real branch or your fake branch. If some of the tape is coming off because it's dried up, you can add just a dab of glue. Now, whether you're using a real branch or a fake branch, you're gonna have to balance the branch with your flowers. You can re-secure the main stem with something that's much sturdier to hold it straight. I've just used the wire so you can see it's falling over, which I don't mind because I like the design. And the wire works very well. But what I found is that the balance of the branch changed as I'm adding the flowers. So you're gonna have to add flowers, but keep in mind that you're trying to balance the branch. The needle nose pliers come in very handy because The 18 gauge wire is actually quite hard to maneuver just with your hands. So again, I've just wired it on. If you can see, it's just wired on. And then with a little piece of your brown tape, you're going to cover that up. If you feel that your flower is not secure enough, you can add a dab of glue, but it's quite secure just with the wire. So this part is a little bit more challenging because you got to get in there between the branches. And I just take my time and just keep stretching that tape because it's waxy when you stretch it. And when you stretch it, it'll stick on its own, just like that. And you're able to hide the wire quite nicely. So I think these turned out quite beautiful. I think they're gonna look great on my dining room table. And it's just bringing me one step closer to spring. Plus it's a really fun craft to do, and I love making flowers, as you've seen from my other videos. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you like it, I hope you try it. And if you try it, I hope you share it. Until next time, happy flower making.